Dan Larson here, recorded live at the Photobooth. We've got some viewer-submitted items submitted to our P.O. Box. If you want to send something in, the address is probably on screen now. If not, keep your eyes peeled. It's going to show up at some point during this video. Up first, we have Jacob from, Jacob from Palo, Iowa, said it's channels like ours that save him from having to watch regular TV. Jacob sent in the mint on card. I think it's mint. It qualifies as mint. This is the translucent holographic Yoda. It was a Toys R Us exclusive. Now, normally I do open stuff like this. In fact, the last one that somebody sent in was the holographic Emperor Palpatine here, and I cracked that one open. And in fact, a couple stories about this. One, the story I was just telling you, this is a Toys R Us exclusive, and normally I crack these things open immediately, but I'll admit I'm having a bit of a hesitation, what with Toys R Us. I'm going to open it, but I just had to pause for a second on that sticker there, because it's not coming back. So anyway, second story about this is that I thought, seeing this holographic Yoda, I was like, oh, hey, my set's probably at least mostly complete now. I've got Yoda, I've got the Emperor, I got Darth Maul, I got Obi-Wan. And then I did a quick Google search to see what other figures existed for holographic representations of Star Wars figures. And there's several more that I don't have. Cody, Leia, R2, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Shakti, Darth Vader, couple of different Palpatines. There's several more holographic figures. So that's a collection that I've still got some time to work on to continue to build those. Probably going to open this. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not going to open it right now on screen. Jacob also sent in the mint on card, Translucent Wonder Man, which I believe this is a particular... I don't know a lot about Wonder Man. I didn't follow West Coast Avengers very much, but I believe this is sort of his powered up version of his character. And with all these P.O. Box videos, it occurs to me that one of these days here soon, I'm going to need to update the translucent action figure collection, because you guys have been sending in quite a few of them, and I think that collection has more than doubled in the last few months, thanks to the P.O. Box videos and folks like Jake. Thanks, Jake. Up next, we've got John Carlin from johncarling.com. Make sure you check out his website with all of his illustration work there. Very Edward Gorey style there, if you're interested in that sort of, kind of sort of spooky pencil, black ink sort of sketch sort of look to it. John sent in two things here. We got the Black Major, and I may need to go into some explanation about what Black Major is. I'll be honest, I don't know who Black Major is. I know the name from Instagram, and from as far as I know, it's Black Major is I don't want to say that they are knockoffs, but I guess that's technically what they are, bootlegs. It's basically custom cast reproductions of, vintage G.I. Joe figures, the 3 3/4 inches. As far as I understand the story, again, I didn't do any research on this ahead of time, so I'm just going by what I think the story is. I believe they did at some point get an actual factory involved and had some actual volumes of figures created. I'm not even going to try to guess on the legality of all that or licensing or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's in the past, but you see figures all the time at shows and online and eBay and whatever. And this, as I understand from John, is a unpainted test Cobra Trooper. He's got his gun. He's got a backpack. And, same construction. He's got the O-ring and everything. I mean, it's basically just a reproduction of a vintage G.I. Joe figure. A little bit looser there. I don't know if that was something that would have been tightened up on finished production versions. But as far as I know, lots of different variations of those figures. This isn't really a plug for Black Major or anything. I just wanted to explain that this isn't actually a legitimate, original G.I. Joe figure. And while it looks like it glows in the dark, I don't think it glows in the dark, but I'll admit that up until right now, I didn't bother to test it, so it might. The other thing that John sent in was actually a piece of, several pieces of his own work, and as I was just talking about the Edward Gorey nature of his artwork, here are some examples you can actually see for yourself. I think these are stickers. Some of them are stickers. This is a postcard. This one's a sticker. And this one's a postcard, and this one's a postcard, but all kinds of other samples of his work on his website. Check that out. John was also nice enough to send in another piece of his original work, the Traveling Witch. And in here we've got the Traveling Witch itself, which, he told me on one of these cards what the limited edition run of these was, and I don't have that number in front of me. Hang on. Got a sticker, and we got a tiny little, I believe this is the story. Oh no, sorry, it's the spell book. So, again, very, like I said, it's definitely Edward Gorey inspired, but definitely a unique voice there as well. Lots of really great illustrations. JohnCarlin.com. Make sure you check out his work. This is the limited edition red-footed one on the bottom, and I'm guessing that's number 10. I think he said they were limited to editions of 100, so I'm honored to own one of those. Thank you very much, John, for sending those in, both the Traveling Witch and the Black Major early run Cobra Trooper. After that, we've got, up next is Matt from Newmarket, New Hampshire. Matt sent in the Transformers crossover Boba Fett Slave 1 here. I think these guns pivot. I hope they pivot, because I just made them pivot. I have owned this before. I didn't currently own it, so that's cool. I have owned this before. The versions I've had, I never bought it new. The ones that I had were either incredibly discolored because they picked them up at a flea market for like $1 or whatever, or they were missing pieces. So this one is actually in excellent condition. It's got its missile, and most importantly, it's got the tiny little Boba Fett figure in here, which was definitely one that I did not have in my collection. I don't collect all the Boba Fett stuff that exists, but I do like the Boba Fett figures, obviously. And I thought the Action Fleet one was pretty good. This one is incredibly detailed. I am shocked at the amount of detail on this thing. He's got his rocket. He's got his, I can't even believe he has his full rangefinder there. And just the amount of detail actually on the paint on his helmet and everything. I'm very impressed with that. I don't know how to transform this thing, so I don't think I'm actually going to take a whack at it right now without, it would just be me sort of pulling at it and trying to do something with it. I'm going to look the instructions up because I don't actually want to break that, but that's very cool. That's a piece I did not have, like I said, in that condition for sure. So thank you very much, Matt, for sending that in. Matt also had some questions. I'm going to read his questions off this piece of paper here. Matt asked, any chance of bringing back Toy Galaxy draws? I enjoyed that feature and I'd love to see more, but maybe you discontinued it for a reason. I've gotten that question from a few people recently, and it's the kind of thing that I definitely would like to get back to. I do still love to draw. We just couldn't quite figure out the format of it. I don't have a full-time camera setup to just be able to pop over to my drawing desk and make it work. My setup was far more complicated than it needed to be, and so it took me forever to set that thing up. And so I got to a point where I couldn't take the time to actually run that camera the way it was, and we just needed to develop a new system for it. So hopefully at some point here, 2019, 2020, who knows, we'll be able to make another run at that. I can't promise anything right now, but it is definitely something that we would like to get back to as well. Second question, we know Dan loves translucent figures, Boba Fett and Spider-Ham, among other things. What does producer Greg like that fans could send in? I feel like he gets left out of the P.O. Box love. This is true. He does get left out, and I feel bad about that as well. But the real truth of the matter is that producer Greg doesn't really collect anything. He's not really a collector of stuff. He likes to do his video editing work. He's a big movie fan, but he doesn't necessarily collect movies. So it's hard to say that there's anything you could actually send in for him. But if nothing else, I appreciate, he appreciates, you just, mentioning him and just saying thanks. That's one of the biggest things. But, hey, I'll ask him maybe on screen. He's going to put up some kind of list of things that you could send him in. I don't know. That's up to him. And number three, third question here from Matt is, the retakes included in the videos are awesome. Could we maybe get a video of bloopers that didn't make the final cut? Here's the thing. All the bloopers that are included in the videos, that's it. Those are the bloopers. It is very rare that we have any kinds of bloopers that happen that don't get included. Two things happen there. One, we've gotten into such a routine, not routine's not the right word, that makes it sound like it's boring, but we've got into such a efficient working structure that we actually can get through things pretty quickly when we actually start to shoot, and there just aren't that many outtakes. And so when there actually is some kind of outtake, it's usually just me not fun in a not funny way, messing up a line that has nothing to do with anything. and it doesn't need to be included because I just said a word wrong, and there's nothing funny about that. The ones where we get a little punchy and, you know, some crazy stuff happens, those are the ones where producer Greg makes the call as to whether or not he can leave them in, and if there's a place for that. If you go way back to the beginning of the channel, you will see a couple. I think they're still there. I don't know. Maybe we took them down, but there were a couple of videos that were outtake reels, and that was very early on when I still wasn't that comfortable in front of the camera, and those kinds of things would happen a lot more often. And producer Greg hadn't made the decision yet to start including those as part of our just sort of, you know, tone the voice and the style of the channel. So once we started incorporating those outtakes, there was no reason to actually put outtakes videos together anymore. And again, that can be traced back to me just being a lot better at being in front of the camera than I used to be. But so anyway, thanks, Matt, for those questions and for sending in the crossover Boba Fett there. Next up is Lawrence from San Francisco, California. You can check him out on Instagram, each-sold-separately. That's his screen name over there, each sold separately on Instagram. He's Lawrence sent in quite a few things here. And, you know, actually, I didn't set this stuff up real great. He sent in the Revoltech Mark 42 Iron Man here. This is my first exposure. Excuse me, guys. This is my first exposure to the Revoltech series of Iron Man figures in person. Obviously, I've seen them online. I've seen them on Instagram, all that stuff. I looked at just about all the ones that existed when we actually did the 10 best Iron Man figures because I wanted to make sure I was being as accurate about that as possible. But it's always different when you can actually put your hands on stuff and you can, you know, get a better sense for the way the thing is put together and the quality of the sculpt and paint and all those things. And of course, you know, Revoltech, most of these import brands, just the amount of accessories that they come with, extra hands, repulsor blasts, stands, and all that stuff. That said, Revoltech is kind of weird with I get the joint system, and I actually have several Revoltech figures, Boba Fett, Guy King, other stuff. And they can be kind of funny, you know, like this knee joint here. It's a double joint, but it's kind of a double joint in a weird spot. And when you bend it, it kind of gets exposed. And that works all right for Iron Man because, you know, he's got that sort of robotic look to him. But I don't know if you can see, like every time it sort of sits down, it's kind of wobbly, wobbly-ish. And that's just part of the Revoltech nature of the way those joints are put together. And I will also say about Revoltech figures, one of the deceptive things about them is that they seem fragile and they seem delicate. You know, they're just the way they kind of feel. But they're actually more durable than I give them credit for because for the most part, they're just sort of, you know, it's the Revoltech joint is inside. This is just a two-piece. There's two pins on this and it revolves and it rotates. So, you know, this can rotate this way and then it can rotate on the actual socketed pin there. If there's anything that is a real problem with Revoltech figures, it's the fact that those pins the hemispheres of those pins can separate, and that could be a pain in the butt to actually put it back together. That said, I still don't have the Marvel Legends version of the Mark 42, so I'm psyched that Lawrence sent this one in particular, because this is a suit that I don't have in my collection currently, so I can sort of measure it up against the other Iron Man figures that I do have, and if I need an actual Mark 42, there it is. Lawrence also sent in some of the craziest things I've ever seen here. Japan, I love you. You do some crazy stuff, and don't ever stop being you. Neko Busou. Neko, hang on. This is the brand. So they are from Bandai. And the theme here, if you haven't noticed, is just cats with like mech armor. And there are all kinds of cats and all kinds of different armors that can be assembled, and they have modular parts. This is the only one that I've put together thus far, and you can see he's got this cannon on top that pivots, and there's all these pinholes all over it, so you can, you know, add the different armors together. And, you know, Lawrence didn't stop at, hey, Dan might think this is cool. Lawrence went all the way to, I think Dan needs to have like the whole set. So we've got this mega monster set here with, I don't know, just way too many pieces in it. Not that I'm not going to put it together. This one, and it's, I I just, it's the kind of thing that you just say, you know what else do you do with these except appreciate them as just the fun toys that they are. That's what they exist to be. I don't know. Tell me in the comments. I don't think there's anything else that goes with this. I don't think there's a show. I don't think there's a movie. I don't think there's a comic. Maybe there is. Maybe I'm missing out on some even greater opportunities for just wackiness and different interpretations of mech stuff, but I'm pretty sure it's just the toy line, and I haven't done any research to know if there's any other story behind this, because I don't need to, because just as what it is crazy enough, and thank you, Lawrence, very much for sending those in. I had seen pictures of them earlier when they were announced, but I hadn't actually looked into purchasing any on my own, so I'm glad to have those in my collection. I look forward to building them all. Follow me on Instagram at toygalaxy for when I put these together and start posting pictures of those. Up next is Robert from East Hanover, New Jersey. Robert had stepped away for collecting a bit, found the channel a few years ago, and has made his way back into the obsession, the fun, all that stuff. Robert sent in quite a few things here. First off, we've got mint on card Flash. This is Electro Strike, which we're just going to go ahead and open this one up now. I don't think I'm sacrificing any future value on this one. So we got translucent Flash from, I believe this is from Justice League. Yeah, definitely. And I don't know what this is. It looks like could be a mask, could be handcuffs. I believe on the package that I just threw away here. Hang on. Yeah, it's just sort of like a, I don't know, swirly effect all around him. Oh, does it have like a hand grip? Sort of. Not so much. Hey, you know what? It's a translucent figure, and this is actually not the first translucent Flash that I have. It's the first one I have of this version. Can you stand on this stand? Nope. But I dig it, and like I said, the more I keep wanting to say exclusive, the more translucent figures that come in, the more likely I am to have to revisit that full collection to see exactly where I stand, because I don't even know where I stand anymore. Robert also sent in the 2 Gummy Bears here. This is, oh boy, Gruffy. Mrs. Toy Galaxy isn't here because she was very excited about these. We did have a couple. I don't think we had either of these. Gruffy and Tummy, I think. I know it's not Grumpy. It might be Gruff. I think it's Gruffy and Tummy. I loved Gummy Bears. I almost said Care Bears. I loved Gummy Bears, and I don't know if Disney Afternoon is planning on hitting those or not. Either way, I think these are still great figures. They hold up. He's got a little bit of a weird sort of melty. He's got a weird little melty spot on his torso there. I don't know if that's actually from a heat source or just one of those weird things where like plastic breaks down over time because they were like laying on top of each other, and it happens here and there. Also from Robert, we've got Murdoch from the old 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joe style A-Team figures, and the Guts Trooper. I'll add that to my... It's almost time for us to do a Guts video. I think we have Guts on our list. Definitely haven't hit that yet. But I got a whole bucket of these things now. Some carded, too. And we've got the Eagle Force, Mego Eagle Force Savitar Ninja, which is... Savitar's weird, you know, about the same time that early, the 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joes were hitting in the early 80s there. That's when this line was coming out. And it was just so weird to have, you know, this isn't G.I. Joe, obviously, but to have a line like this, fully articulated, 4 inches tall, you know, plastic, and then this weird, you know, I can't even call it 5 POA because his head doesn't really turn, you know, 4 POA die-cast figures. It was just such a weird line, and you know, ninjas were cool, and everybody wanted to have a ninja in their line. It was the early 80s, and you had to. This guy came with, like, a katana that, you know, fit in the peg hole in his back, so it wasn't really, like, out. It was sort of in the sheath. And he came with a machine gun, so, I don't know. I have some Eagle Force figures now. I've never owned Savitar the Ninja, so that's really fantastic. My friend, back in the day, a friend of mine had it. I had gotten Storm Shadow, and he got Savitar. And it just it's a weird line, and I like it. And actually, I went in on the Kickstarter last year for the Eagle Force figures, so I'm looking forward to those coming out here soon. But this is just one of those weird, quirky things that I'm sure will hit. I don't know if we're going to classify it as an oddity or more as just a history of. We'll see. Maybe a retro review on Savitar. I'm not sure how we're going to handle that one. We'll have to do some research and see where that one goes. Also from Robert, we've got Gizmo, which I had this one when I was a kid. Love this thing. Gremlins, scary at the time, but the marketing was perfect. I loved Gizmo. Gizmo actually used to fit on the front of my bike. I had a bike that had like shocks on the front, and his ears would sort of tuck in between them. So as I was riding my bike, he was right out in front, showing the way as I rode through the neighborhood. And then we've got Mega Man back here, who I'm going to get. I don't think it's Playmates. It's probably just by like World of Nintendo. Well, it's not World of Nintendo. It's not articulated enough, and it's older than that. Looks like it's 2005. Oh, Jazzwares, Capcom and Jazzwares. I have some other Nintendo stuff. Man, we get a lot of requests for, Dan, you got to do a collection video or something. And I always say the same thing. I don't have my collection set up like most people do. And it's mostly in bins and boxes. He's any Nintendo stuff I have is in probably just in a miscellaneous bin. I've got like a Transformers bin. I've got 2 or 3 Transformers bins. Star Wars, He-Man, so like Thundercats are in with He-Man. But I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what I've got for Nintendo stuff because I don't keep most stuff displayed. So, it's like I don't really remember until, oh yeah, what do I have? And then I got to go look it up and find. Also from Robert, we've got Juggernaut with his missing helmet. I think I actually have an extra helmet in my miscellaneous accessories bin. And then this guy back here who I forgot to put in my notes what the name of this brand is. Nylint, that's what it was. Nylint. Honestly, I don't know much about Nylint and the stuff that they were making. I'm going to guess they were about the same time as Fisher-Price Adventure People, just sort of a competitive brand. This guy's helmet looks like it comes off, but... hang on. Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't really want to come off. Might be stuck to his head. Might be glued to his head. Not sure. Not sure if this guy was riding a motorcycle, driving a tractor, truck. I think I'm going to go motorcycle just with that helmet, but who knows? Surprised to see he still has his thumbs. He's a quirky figure, that's for sure. And I don't know much about him, and I'm going to have to look up to find out what exactly his story is. I'm going to slide this stuff out of the way real quick here. Last thing from Robert was 2 boxes full of loyal subjects. Street Fighter action figures. We got Ryu and Ken and M. Bison, right? Oh, hang on. His leg fell off. I'm more of a Mortal Kombat guy, so as far as the histories of the characters and their stories and stuff, I have 0, and I'm using the mistranslated American names, Vega, Guile, Chun-Li. And then in this box, we've got accessories, Blanca, and is this the same Chun-Li? Same Chun-Li. I don't know if that's everybody. Let's see if that's everybody. The only other character I can think of are Dalsim and E. Honda. Is that it? Oh, Zangief. Yeah, I think that's it. And then a couple of variations. All of them. I think that's all of them. Okay, yes, there's a different colored Blanca, a couple other pieces. That's cool. I didn't collect any of the Loyal Subjects figures when they came out. I love them, love the look. Wanted to get the G.I. Joe, wanted to get the He-Man, wanted to get the Thundercats, and I didn't really buy any of them because I don't like blind boxes, and I also don't want to be the guy that's like in the shop checking all the serial numbers or squeezing all the bags or whatever, doing that sort of thing. I figured if there was anyone I really wanted to get, I would have just bought them individually off eBay or something, but I never did that anyway. And at this point, I have to say thanks to all of you for sending all these figures in, because now I've got practically an entire collection here of Street Fighter, I've got a bunch of Thundercats, a bunch of He-Man, some G.I. Joe, so that's really fantastic. It's been a fun collection to build along with everybody participating here. Anyway, thanks again to Jacob, John, Matt, Lawrence, and Robert. Thank you for watching. Thank you for spending a few minutes listening to me talk toys. Hit like, hit subscribe, check out our Patreon if you're in the position to help the channel grow. Thank you. Later.